Hey, what's up guys? JB here. So if you're a veteran player, it's kind of another slow week for us here on Global. No new Global Fest units coming this week. And at this point, I really think that they're going to be saving that for maybe after the Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy Tactics return, during that 2.5-year anniversary. Or maybe even potentially run it alongside those, we'll just have to see. And I think they would do that, just to sort of capitalize on a time frame when people have just pulled on a bunch of collaboration units, and then they're going to throw that new Global Fest unit at us, I think, to kind of get us when we're down and have people try to top off and actually buy more Visior. So we'll just have to see, that is something that you potentially have to brace for, during the 2.5 anniversary. But we did get something new this week, and that is new mastery abilities for both Zazan and Fryevia, both global original units. So just a quick video today to kind of look at those upgrades, and I'll give you my take whether I think they're good or bad or maybe somewhere in between. So, let's just get right into it. And we're going to start with Fryevia here first. Of course, this was our original global original. And Fryevia's mastery ability, was definitely a bit long in the tooth. You can see here, it's just 10% HP and 10% magic resist. So there really is a lot of different directions they could go here with the mastery upgrade. Maybe they could look to upgrade her damage potential a little bit, maybe upgrade one of her skills, or maybe even look at a limit burst upgrade. I think that she really did deserve a very good upgrade, considering where this unit has come from. She is a limited unit, and of course she is a fan favorite as well. And while she is certainly usable now, today in the game as sort of like an anti-magic, anti-winds tank and tool, there was definitely a long part of the game where this unit was near unusable. Her AI was broken for a very long time when it came to using her various white mage skills. So I think for that issue alone, they really should have gone over the top and given Fryevia something good. So let's actually look and see what Gumi has actually done here. So yeah, my first take on this Mastery 2 upgrade is that it's just kind of underwhelming. There is some good here though, and let's talk about that first. Of course she is getting that standard ice elemental mastery with the 10% HP and 15 ice attack. Her original HP bump that she got before at that 10% is now getting up to 30%, which is nice. So between those two things, she's actually looking at a 30% total hit points bump from what she was just yesterday. And I don't really think that you can push that aside. 30% HP on a tank unit like Fryevia is very, very substantial. In Fryevia's case, it's going to be adding 1300 HP to her total, and her innate hit points now are actually going to be the highest in the entire game out of any unit, and that's going to be at just about 6500 innate HP. Now the 10% additional magic resist that she's picking up here, that's pretty decent as well. She was already very strong in that category if you're bringing in her passive abilities as well. I do think probably the best thing that she's getting here though is that 10% agility bump, and that's going to translate to roughly 5 additional agility for Fryevia. She has 52 base agility today. And I think that agility bump is definitely much needed for her. In a completed build, since her agility was well below average, she could sometimes be in that 80s range or maybe even into the 90s if you were really, really focusing on it. So that additional 5 agility there, I think, is going to help her out a lot and make sure that she's not getting double turned very easily. So overall here, the stat increases are fine enough. She'll be just a little bit more effective at what we all know that she does today. So in that regard, it is not the worst mastery upgrade that I've ever seen. I have to say though that I think that Fryevia really could have benefited from something like a cast time decrease, to really maybe get her casting times on the white mage cures and curatas, in just a little bit quicker. If they didn't want to go that direction, perhaps maybe a skill upgrade, maybe to her attract barrier, maybe to also give her shell would have been very nice. Or maybe even a limit burst upgrade to maybe enhance her survivability or add some team utility with a debuff added in could have been good as well. There's really just a lot of things that they could have done to make this mastery upgrade just a little more special. And the fact that they didn't do that, is just kind of a little bit disappointing for me, just kind of considering the history there with this unit that we talked about. Is she better now, at her niche within the game? Most definitely. That HP upgrade alone is going to be a huge boon. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a little bit uninspired for a mastery upgrade, especially when we're talking about our first global original. All right, next up we have Big Daddy Zazan, another very special unit for global. Of course, this was the meme that became a dream fulfilled. This was the winner of our first global popularity contest. And I have to admit that when Zazan won that, I personally was disappointed at first. I didn't actually vote for him, but the design on him, just came out so incredible and instantly won me over. And I really fell in love with this unit, ever since they first teased his artwork, so long ago. Now Zazan, as a 100 cost and, only just now a little bit over a year old in the game, he already actually had a pretty decent mastery ability. He already had that Earth Elemental mastery already there baked in. And of course that 20% slash res penetration in the 5 evade, that he had initially, it's already, admittedly a pretty nice mastery. In terms of enhancements for this, my biggest wishes for Zazan was, maybe just to give him a bit more bulk, just to make him a little bit more viable, both in and out of an evade build. So let's look here at what Gumi's done to upgrade Zazan. So right off the bat here, 20% additional HP and 20% additional attack. So my hope for a better bruising Zazan, has been fulfilled here, to some degree. It may not sound like a lot, but Zazan already being one of the most evasive units in the game, now also is right there, among the better bruisers in the entire game as well. That 20% HP bump for Zazan is going to equate to more than 600 HP for him, and that's going to get his already good HP total up to more than 4,200, which is quite significant. It actually is going to match his elemental brother Noctis, when it comes to raw HP. That 20% attack increase that he's getting here actually brings his innate total up to 646 innate attack, and that is good for #1 in the entire game. So those two things, it's already a great start for Zazan, increasing both his damage and his survivability. But if they had stopped here, I definitely would have been a little bit disappointed, as I was with Fryevia. Thankfully, they did actually give Zazan a little bit something extra here, and it is an all-new mechanic for the global side, something that we weren't actually expecting to see until Queen Macherie comes here, maybe as soon as next week. And when Zazan dies in battle and gets re-raised, he's now going to get 20 CT added into his bar. So I do think that Gumi actually did pretty good here with this one. It's just so on brand for who and what Zazan is in this game and what he does. I think it just fits perfectly. He's going to play coy, and when it turns out that he's not dead, he's moving up in the turn order and ready to strike. So while I think it definitely would have been nice maybe to have an innate barrier here, or maybe a second cast of re-raise, maybe even an upgrade to his limit burst, I do think that this effect is pretty good too. And I think that we do need to remember that they may be balancing this here, with future job changes that are incoming for both Paladin and Viking. I don't really think that it's out of the question that we could be seeing 2 casts of Immortal Spirit for Paladins in the future. But we'll just have to see what happens down the road. Now, is this broken, and is Zazan the king of the meta? Certainly not. But I think that it does make him a lot more viable today than he was yesterday. I think that he is very usable now as not only a top tier Earth evade unit, but he is going to slide very well into an Earth bruising team as well. And that could be alongside Noctis or Oberon, or maybe even both of them. And I do think, this is going to help tip the scales back, just a little bit in terms of the lightning and Earth push-pull battle. I think that it may surprise some people out there that Zazan can be built now as a proper bruiser in this game. And if you forego the evade builds, altogether, you can actually build him to be approaching nearly 11,000 HP, along with pretty solid defenses and resistances. All the while, he's still retaining a very solid attack stat and very high damage penetrations. And I think when you combine those raw statistical numbers with the fact that he can not only Immortal Spirit, he can also re-raise on top of it, I think you have a recipe for one of the best bruisers in the game, bar none. Now, I did actually mock that out with sort of a bruising anti-lightning setup in mind, and I will put a link to that build in the description if you want to go ahead and check that out. All right, so as a quick bonus here, guys, here is the new Earth Vision card, Rise of the Immortal. And right off the bat, I will say I don't think that this is a must-pull, even if you are a Zazan player, but it is definitely another quality Earth Vision card for the collection, of which Earth has many at this point. I do really like the 30% slash res penetration bestowed that it's adding in here, and that part of the effect is not for Zazan only. It's going to affect any Earth unit, and there's certainly some other units out there that could really benefit from something like this. Units like Halloween Fred or Moraga, we're both lacking a bit in slash res penetration. They could certainly benefit from this. The agility bump that it comes in for Zazan only is quite substantial as well, and you can add that on top of the base 4 agility that the card is bringing. So if you were also to have a 15% agility card in the party, you can easily push Zazan up above 120 agility or even beyond, with this card. So all of that is great, but the reason why I say this is not necessarily a must pull is because I see this VC as something that you probably are going to be using as a secondary VC, in many situations. If you think about an Earth Evade build, for example, you know, you're definitely going to be wanting to have this 18% luck bonus in the secondary slot because you're going to have the Earth Ketone card, Secrets of the Heart, you know, in your primary for its 35% luck effect. Now, admittedly, having access to 2 different luck cards, you know, within the element is a very, very nice option. We've seen how strong that can be for the light element, for example. And Earth now having access to 2 different luck cards, you know, I am able to build a Earth Evade team, which is very competitive even with the light evade teams out there. I am able to get Zazan to over a 320% evade threshold, which is very, very strong. Now, the 2 main situations where I might see this VC as a primary card for you is obviously if you're planning to hunt missile teams. You know, this one does come in with that 20% missile res for the party. And of course, Earth didn't have access to a missile resistance card before today, so that is very nice for them. Unfortunately, it is just coming at a time when missile res penetration is running rampant in the game, and the value of that stat, you know, has been diminished, you know, just a little bit. You know, most recently with Summer Jaden coming into the game and just the staggering amount of penetrations that he has access to. And certainly that is a trend that is set to continue. You know, we do have Alaya coming in the short future, and she can actually get pretty good missile res penetration herself. Despite that though, you know, if you did want to use an Earth team to combat, you know, an ice missile meta, you know, I would definitely go ahead and pick up this card. And I do think that Earth can actually field a pretty good team for that purpose. Now, the other situation where this card would be really good, you know, is things like PvE events or guild raids. Of course, Earth now is going to have access to 2 different 35 slash up cards. You know, they've had the Echoing Screams Moraga card for a while now, which also has that effect. So if you like to push your Earth team in guild raids and sort of go for those high scores, you know, I do think that this is a good one to pick up for that as well. All right, guys, so that is my take on Fryevia and Zazan's enhancements today. Kind of a mixed bag, you know, overall between the 2. With Zazan, I think definitely getting the better end of the stick, you know, when it comes to the Mastery 2 upgrades. So what are you guys thinking on this one? You know, how do you feel about the upgrades? Which one was better and were they enough? Hit me up in the comments down below and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video today, you know, hit that like button. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, you know, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. And that's really all I have to say for today. So as always, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.